Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tailgating with Lot C. I'm Joe, and I'm here with Mark.
How you doing, everyone?
And today we're serving up some food for thought on Core Set 2021 and Standard in general. So Core Set came out on Arena a couple days ago, and we're looking at the way the players have been playing these cards that have come out and seeing how it's affected or changed the meta at all, and the brews that people are coming up with and how they're utilizing all these new cards from the new set, and how it might change what you see when you're playing. Because while playing Arena and as well as just watching some other content creators, we're starting to get an idea of what Standard is probably going to be looking like until Zendikar comes out and we get some more rotations. So what do you think is the impact so far that M21 has had on Standard?
Well, as far as an overall meta shift, little to none, unfortunately, for the most part. However, I think that a lot of fun cards have come into the set. You know, Stormwing Entity is one of them. A few other cards I like, Village Rites. So I will say that, unfortunately, as the last few sets have done for me as arena-wise, there hasn't been enough meta change to actually promote more fun competitive gameplay. But as far as playing just for fun in general and knowing that I'm not going to care about playing ranked, trying to get the mythic or anything, because I don't care enough to play against the same decks over and over again that are the same ramp in general. You know, as far as the top decks are going to be Simic turns, Bant Ramp into turns. You know, Bant Ramp as it's always been before. Team of Wreck, it's all the same deck kind of.
Right.
You know, it's just ramping into a big thing. All the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's gonna. It's not gonna be that bad, at least as far as playing for fun. But competitive, not much has changed.
Well, we're one set away from the big rotation, and I'm hoping that when Zendikar comes out, we're gonna see a large shift in the meta for what we run into as far as ranked play goes. And yeah, when M21 came out, I was kind of hoping that there'd be a little bit more of a change, but it seems like Magic players are going to be Magic players, and they're going to play whatever's best. And unfortunately, Teferi, Time Reveler, and Uro are still the best cards in the game.
Teferi, Master of Time now with Ugin.
Right. Yeah. So right. So we look at what has changed is Bant Ramps now ramping into
the win cons, essentially.
Into a new Ugin. You know, so not a lot has changed. They're playing the same cards. They're playing the same exact cards to get to a slightly different win con.
You gotta admit, it's hilarious that Nissa, Shaker of Worlds, is not even played in that deck anymore. She had destroyed for months now in Standard, and they're like, nah, don't need her anymore. Got Teferi and Ugin. You're nothing now.
Right.
You're nothing, Nissa. Because it's just like, there's no downside with Ugin. It's like you're going to destroy the entire board.
And he can be played in any ramp deck too, because he's colorless. So we've seen him in mono blue builds, mono blue ramping up into him with cards like
I saw Saffron play it.
With cards like Solemn Simulacrum coming in to help with that. We obviously you see him in Bant Ramp, you see him in Simic Ramp, you see him in mono green.
Yeah, with Azusa, it's like Azusa and Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Oh, it's so easy.
So
you
easy.
Don't even have to try.
You get up to his CMC.
You get like 7 lands on the board, like fourth turn. I'm like, am I playing Primeval Titan and Modern? What's happening?
Right. Yeah, so we don't see a huge shift.
No.
Not with this set.
And as we've discussed, and we have differing opinions, I don't harbor much hope for Zendikar, unfortunately. As I know that there are a lot of more different land synergies in Zendikar with landfall triggers of actual just, aggressive type or anything else, and there's a lot of different man lands and everything else in the previous Zendikar set. However, at the end of the day, there's a lot of land synergies. I think that they're going to put as they've shown in this last block, they keep pushing the envelope of more green and blue. Just keep going with it. It's going to rotate anyway. Let's just make it as powerful as possible and make it interesting. I think there's going to last push here with Zendikar. Also, I think it's going to be the same thing. But who knows? I could be wrong. I hope so.
Well, we'll see if the Royal comes in and shakes up the meta.
Right. However, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We are now still just in the beginnings of Core Set 2021.
Right. So it just came out, and we're just basically looking at just a couple days of what people have brewed together and one of those decks that people have brewed is a new Taking Turns deck with
it's disgusting.
What's that card?
Discontinuity.
Discontinuity paired with the new Teferi for taking even more extra turns.
It's disgusting.
I mean, we thought Nexus of Fate was bad. Well, we got this now.
It's essentially the same thing, but I mean, it hurts almost even more because as you're playing Nexus of Fate, it's just, okay, well, they take another turn. This one, if you're playing the mirror match or just anything in general, you play, I don't know, you play that Croxa when you've escaped, or you play Ugin on your side of the board, or any other big spell, Dream Troll, or things of that nature. Discontinuity. You lose the spell and you lose the turn.
Right.
It's almost worse.
I mean, it's a counter spell.
Essentially.
For the whole stack.
Yeah. Ends your combat phase.
Mm-hmm.
It's even more than that. And it's only 6 mana. With all these mana ramp things, you're going to do it on like turn 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Possibly.
So that's definitely a bit of a toxic card.
That's not even mentioning the fact that you can play for 2 mana in your turn to stop an Uro escape trigger. So play Uro for 3 mana and you get him back without even having to escape anything. You don't even need to play any graveyard synergy.
Right.
Escape any cards. Don't need to.
Don't even need to do it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so beyond that, we haven't seen too much change. I mean, Team of Wreck is still being played everywhere, especially in the higher ranks.
Don't count your chickens, people. You're going to get Expansion Explosion for about 14. It'll happen.
It's going to happen to you because, Team of Wreck isn't going anywhere. It's still a fantastic deck. Everyone's going to be playing it. So look forward to the mirror matches that you're going to have in the later games of Ranked.
Yeah, I do not envy you people going for Mythic. Have fun with the grind. Stay sane. Drink a lot of water. It's going to be an all-day job.
I'll stick at Bronze. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So do you have any kind of predictions for what Standard is going to look like from here on out and going towards Zendikar?
Well, as we've said, Simic Turns, Simic Ramp, Simic Control, all sorts of variants in that, Band Ramp, and different variants of that sort, Wilderness Wreck, Team of Wreck. They're all going to be the top decks. Junsec might poke its head out, maybe a little bit of Zori's Control, see how Fairy Master of Time and Dream Trawler can, work out in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that Dimir Flash deck works. There's a lot of good Flash cards out there now. Spectral Sailor and that other new Rogue that's in this new set are pretty good. There's a lot of, attacks, or cheapening of effects for Flash. And then there's still that one, like Slitherwisp, I believe it's called. That card's still really good. It just, is it going to be quick enough? Can you play that Dimir tempo control build where you can counter their big enough spells against these mana ramp decks and still get out the things that you can swing with and win? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Rakdos could be interesting with the new Liliana. She's quite good. I think she might be a little bit overlooked. And is it with, Sprite Dragon, Storming Entity, and all these other cards with Miscast? Could also be interesting to see, but I don't know. It's hard to just combat, huge amount of mana. It's hard.
It is hard, yeah. I mean, we're going to see so much ramp, I think, going forward till Zendikar comes out.
And you could see some of the cards they printed in react. You can tell that Blitz of the Thunder Raptor was printed afterward to be like, all right, well, maybe this will help against the Uros and the Croxas.
Mm-hmm.
Miscast can be used against Expansion Explosion. It's 1 mana, and then they play it for 14, and then you counter it.
Mm-hmm.
D-Spark can be used on, it was printed after, but it can be used on Wilderness Wreck. There's a few things in there.
Containment Priest as well.
Containment Priest, but it's is it enough when you keep just maxing out the power on these huge blue and green cards? It's just you can print the response cards, but it's you're printing tools to combat just behemoths of cards.
Right.
It's I don't know if it's big enough.
Yeah. So speaking of some interesting decks that you said might crop up here and there, do you have any kind of decks that you are trying to build or that you want to play?
The Izzet Storming Entity Flyers deck with the new counter spell from 21 that essentially is a bigger mana leak with a flyer on the board. I can't remember the name of it right now, but we all know what you're talking about. We'll
Lofty Denial.
Lofty Denial. Pretty good card. I think a Rakdos build with Liliana and maybe Tyremet Calls the Dead, as well as, a few other cards like that with Village Rights could be interesting to see. But we'll see how it goes. I don't expect any of these decks to do anything for me in Ranked, I'm not sure if I'm going to play Ranked, but they seem fun, New counters deck with Scavenging Ooze and Conclave Mentor too. I know you're a big fan of that deck.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, that's probably going to be one of the decks I focus on trying to do well with. Pairing Conclave Mentor with cards like Scavenging Ooze and Pelt Collector and some of the other things. I've even tried it out with some artifacts using Steel Overseer.
Stonecoil Serpent as well.
Stonecoil Serpent. Yeah, it's a lot of fun playing those. It's, basically a hardened scales deck in standard, which is very fun to play because hardened scales in modern is blast.
True. Well, it was now that it's really unplayable now that Loris was gone.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm okay with that, to be honest.
Yeah, beyond that, I mean, I want to try to build a vampires deck maybe with
the new
patrician
and then
card.
It's the one that starts with a V, I believe his name is.
Vito.
Vito, yes.
Right.
Vito. He seems fun at least.
Seems like fun. Yeah, these are. I mean, going forward towards Zendikar, while we're waiting for the change in meta that's going to happen when everything rotates, or will hopefully happen when everything rotates. Just like to build decks for fun because I'm not going for the ranked grind. I'm not going for mythic.
No, I'm not.
So I'm going to do the thing where I try to play Azorius Flyers with, a bunch of counters and have fun with that. I'm going to do the thing with Conclave Mentor playing Selesnya, which never really works in standard. I'm going to try Izzet with, Stormwing Entity. I'm going to try out some of the fun cards and hopefully I'll enjoy it.
Hopefully.
Playing unranked, you do usually run into more interesting decks, more creative, a little powered down for the sake of fun or tribal builds that you would see there, as opposed to ranked where you're going to run into those top meta decks. So there is still a fun place. And of course, we still have lots of limited game modes we can play on Arena, and Brawl is an absolute blast to play all the time.
That's true. The more cards they print out, the more Brawl becomes much more fun. And even Historic has a little bit of potential.
Yeah, Historic actually, Historic is looking really good, especially with Jumpstart coming out soon. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah, hopefully. It'd be better if I could get a bit more access to wild cards on Arena instead of just dumping my entire wallet into it, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, so moving on from standard, we'd like to discuss some cards from M21 that we might see crop up in modern. Do you have any cards in mind?
Well, the first card I think that everyone's thinking about is Miscast. I think Miscast has a lot of potential. I know that a lot of GDS players are seeing how it'll work inside the deck itself. I don't think it's a savior for GDS, but it's interesting to see how it'll work. Playing against Ban Control, a 1 mana counter for instant or sorcery. It'd be interesting to see.
1 mana, make them pay 3 mana. That's really powerful.
It can be very powerful in modern.
Yeah, I think it might see more play as a sideboard piece.
True.
Rather than straight up replacing
Stubborn
Denial and a Grixis Death Shadow list. But it definitely has a lot of potential for modern, for sure.
Especially if the meta shifts too, because in current meta, the fact that it can't hit artifacts is a very, very big deal. Countering things like Astrolabe or anything else such as that, or even Thopter Foundry or anything else of those nature. Right. It's just it's impossible to hit those things. But if you come back into a meta where people aren't playing as many artifacts and snow kind of goes down in the meta, it could be different. But either way, right now it's definitely not the savior. But Eliminate's a card that I think could be very interesting in modern.
Eliminate for sure, yeah. 2 mana, destroy a creature or planeswalker, 3 CMC or less. What do you see in modern? You see creatures and planeswalkers, 3 CMC or less.
Tarmogoyf.
Pretty much only what you're going to see. Once in a while, there'll be a 4 or 5 CMC walker you see, or creature, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to see Snapcasters. You're going to see, like you said, Tarmogoyfs. You're going to see Uro,
Goblin Guide, everything like that. Yeah. So, and if you're playing black, you can't hit him with it. You're playing Thoughtseize, probably. You'll be fine.
Another one I'd say is Village Rites.
I do like Village Rites a lot, especially in like a Mardu Pyromancer build. I favor heavily because it's gonna give you the cast trigger, and if you got an elemental on board, which you probably should have if you're playing Pyromancer, otherwise you're still in deep trouble. Let's draw 2 cards, which Pyromancer struggles a lot with without using cards like Bedlam Reveler, which I think is just not good enough for the meta currently. It doesn't work as well. So I think that makes up the gap as far as value, because Urza's all value. Mm-hmm. So, you need to combat it a little bit.
Right, and pretty much throw that in any Aristocrat style deck.
Oh yeah, Aristocrats.
Any deck that you don't mind dropping off a creature for drawing 2, or even in response to a creature being destroyed or bolted or whatever. Boom, pay 1 black, draw 2 cards off it. Very nice.
And for all you people still playing Pioneer, I know there's an Abzan Rally, the Ancestors deck that people like to play. Goes perfectly in there, you know, and Abzan can kind of run low on cards, draw 2, keep it going. So, but if you're playing Pioneer, I still feel really bad for you.
Do you see Sublime Epiphany going into Modern at all?
I think maybe if Azorius Control crops up again, you know, it could be more of a big Cryptic Command spell. You know, I don't think you play it as a replacement for Cryptic Command. But say if you build that kind of list where, you know, some Azorius Control builds still played Torrential Gearhulk. If you're playing those big 2 of 1 of 3 of big creatures in that style of build, you know, you copy a Torrential Gearhulk, enters the battlefield, recast another big spell like an Into the Story or another Cryptic Command or something of that nature. That can be really interesting. But if you're still playing the control builds nowadays of Urza or playing, you know, Teferi Hero Dominaria, I don't think it currently helps that. But like things like Miscast and Sublime Epiphany are probably you can see more in the future. But even still, I don't think it's that good for Modern, but it could be. I'm not sure. We'll see.
So one more card that I think might see some play in Modern is Stormwing Entity. I think it could be played in any kind of prowess deck, whether it's, you know, just straight up Izzet prowess or thrown into maybe a Phoenix build.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though Phoenix obviously isn't seeing too much play in Modern, I think it definitely adds a little bit of power to those decks. Being able to cast that thing for 2 mana, have a flyer in the air with prowess is pretty good.
Yeah, especially if you can make it work with Manamorphose and that card together are like, you know, the best thing since, you know, spaghetti and meatballs.
Right.
Literally, you know, Manamorphose, keep them on a mana, draw a card, and then play that card, scry 2, and have a 3/3 on board.
Yeah.
Like that combination alone is amazing and is definitely Modern playable. Those 8 cards together, those 2 play sets. However, can you make it work with, say, like a Gut Shot? You know, Gut Shot on turn 2 for the -2 and then play Storming Entity? Can you make that work? I'm not sure there's any other cards that really replicate Manamorphose's ability, because I believe you have to cast an instant or sorcery in order to get the trigger correct. So you can't play like what is the hybrid Gruul thing that you play and you get the mana back? Burning Tree Emissary?
Burning Tree Emissary?
Like, you can't do that. But, you know, if you can play like Gut Shot and some of the prowessy things, like in the same way that Phoenix was doing it with Manamorphose, could work. But, you know, that might be a bit of a stretch. But we'll see. It's definitely a powerful card. And in the future, if there's another card that's similar to Manamorphose comes out, that deck could be real.
Well, I can see it going into something even just like, you know, mono red prowess. Just start splashing blue for some more, you know, cantrip style cards, and, you know, this in there along with that, because flying goes over a lot of things.
It's true.
Sometimes cards like was it Soulscar
Mage,
and you know, Monastery Swiftspear, sometimes they have a little trouble getting through.
That's true.
So a card like Storming Entity could definitely give them a decent power boost, I'd say, if they're willing to go into the blue color pie.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think they might need some more cards, but some people could probably play around with it.
All right, so do you have any cards in mind that you're looking forward to trying out in other formats besides Standard, be it Commander or Modern or anything else?
I think that a few cards we've already discussed are definitely Commander playable. Sublime Epiphany 1-of is very good in Commander as a 1-of. You know, Cryptic Command you don't ever see really in Commander, but as Sublime Epiphany for what it does can be really, really interesting, because in any number of combination of colors, Teamer, you played it in a Simic Commander deck, you play it in a Izzet Commander deck, making another big copy of a creature that you have can be really, really powerful. And then all of its other effects are insane as well, I think. So that's one that I think is more fitted to Commander, I would say, for the most part.
Absolutely not a dead card almost at any point during the game when you're able to cast that.
At the minimum, you draw a card.
Right. I mean, it answers so many problems, whether you want to bounce something or you need a card draw or you got to counter something. I mean, it's always going to come in handy.
The one card that's going to be insane in Commander is Peer into the Abyss.
Peer into the Abyss combo.
That in a Nekuzar deck is going to be stupid good. And I'm going to hate it when we have to play against our friends' Nekuzar deck, because it's going to be an instant win.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're gonna invite him to the table
Not if
anymore.
he's playing Nekuzar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that Nekuzar alone is already a pain in the butt to play against. Super powerful, and kind of makes you not want to play the game in a
True.
way where it's like, well, do I want to draw this? You know, do I want to draw cards so that I can actually play, or do I want to sit here and just hope that I don't take 16 damage on my upkeep from all these extra cards I'm drawing every turn? But yeah, the Peer into the Abyss combo with in the Nekuzar deck is utterly broken.
Yeah, and there's some of the cards we mentioned: Conclave Mentor, going to a Gavu tokens counters deck, perfectly fine. You already have Hardened Scales in there. You already have Winding Constrictor. Throw that in there, and that's another effect of the same redundancy, which is fine in Commander. You're gonna want that. Other cards. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any immediately. I mean, Azuz is a great reprint.
Do you have any cards that you want to try out in Commander? Like yourself, like any legendary creatures in this set that you want to build around specifically, or any cards that you just would like to add to existing lists you have?
Well, as if you watch the channel might know, we uploaded a Subira budget commander list that I myself I'm owning. It should be coming in the mail any day now. So that's one that I think is really interesting. I've always been a huge fan of the Cavalcade deck when it originally came out, not the one that they combined with Chandra's Spitfire. That was actually decent in the meta for a little bit. I've been playing Cavalcade in Arena for ever since it came out in Allegiance. I played so many variants. I even played a Boros Cavalcade deck with, I think, Swiftblade Vindicator from Guilds was one of them, and then that new Boros Knight from Commander 20 that creates a tapped knight that's attacking. I've tried to play that card everywhere, so a Commander version of that deck per se is just even more fun to me.
And I'd say it's unique too, because you don't often see those kind of low to the ground, 1 to 2 to 3 toughness creatures swinging in. I mean, beyond maybe, go wide token strategies, but usually in Commander, cards like Monastery Swiftspear don't work that well.
No.
But allowing, giving your creatures unblockable, I mean, that basically makes them work because, before a Monastery Swiftspear, maybe you prowess it up a little bit, but most of the time in Commander, there's going to be a big blocker sitting on the other side of the board that's going to see the Monastery Swiftspear. It'll be maybe a 3/3/4/4, maybe a 5/5 if you're really lucky that turn with prowess triggers, and you're not going to get through any kind of damage at all. But with Subira on the board, giving all your creatures unblockable, or as many as you can unblockable, you're gonna start pinging through for some damage. And if you got Cavalcade on the board when you're swinging in,
Ray Bombardment as well, doubling up all those things.
Right, you're gonna start chipping away life totals a lot, pretty fast. And I think it could eventually start getting out of control. And like I said, I just like that with this Commander, you're going to be able to play cards that generally you would just pass over if you're building a Commander deck.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun and quite different. Any Commander decks you're building or trying to add any cards from this set and any new Commander decks of your own?
So one of the cards that I'm looking to add to a deck is the Brash Taunter.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Stuffy Doll.
I'm a huge fan of Stuffy Doll, and I absolutely love pairing cards like Star of Extinction or Blasphemous Act with cards like Pyromancer's Goggles, Dictate of the Twin Gods,
of course,
to double up on the damage that it's dealt. So then when it hits Stuffy Doll, I'm hitting upwards of 26 times 2,
times 3, times 4, times 5. Yeah, I know.
Just absolutely blowing them out with a Stuffy Doll kill. Or in this case, obviously, I could throw in a Brash Taunter into the list as well. He fits right in. So that's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing that. One of the first modern decks I built was a mono red Tron deck that took advantage of that. And Brash Taunter's essentially the same, in a way, a little bit better than Stuffy Doll because it allows you to target an opponent rather than when you play Stuffy Doll, you choose an opponent who will take the damage. With Brash Taunter, you get to choose it at the time.
True. So, if you're playing Stuffy Doll similar to playing the rack in Modern. Once you kill that opponent, it goes away. Obviously, in Modern, once you kill the person with the rack, it's over. But say the rack in like Commander doesn't work, it's eventually a dead artifact once the player you've targeted is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing will happen with Stuffy Doll, but yeah, you play Brash Taunter, it's just like, oh, well, now I'm going for you. And then
Right.
go for you.
Yeah, it's almost, you have to bounce Stuffy Doll back to your hand in order to make it useful again, or purposely kill it and reanimate it, something like that.
Yeah, and if you're playing it in red or even a red variant, unless you're playing blue, it's going to be quite difficult to play.
Definitely.
What do you think about the new green commander from Core 21, the one that creates cat tokens, Joel Rael? What do you think of her as a commander?
I think she could be a lot of fun. You pair her with different enchantments that have creature ETB triggers that
Great Henge.
that allow for drawing cards. You're gonna create a massive army of cats.
I believe Colossal Majesty or Colossal Might, which is the one that if you have a 4-power greater, you draw one.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvan Library, I know all you commander players know about that one. That card's going to be really good with her.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to guarantee to get a cat every turn. And with her ability, you can't underestimate her other ability. Pay 4 generic and 2 green. End of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where it's a number of cards in your hand. If you're able to maintain a big hand size with all those sorts of things, you got 7 cards in hand, now you got 7 7s, so those cats are not 2 2s.
And you would hope that in a commander shell, you'd be drawing a lot of cards, especially when it's, her trigger happens on your second draw, so you're going to be drawing for upkeep, then you're going to make sure you draw again, which means you're going to be constantly refilling your hand. So when her second ability comes into play, you should have theoretically a pretty large hand. If you pair that with a card like Reliquary Tower or Spellbook,
Thought Vessel as well.
Thought Vessel, yes, you'll have a massive hand, and boom, swing in with some 10/10s possibly.
Yeah, and another card for, if you guys have watched Super Rare video, is Idol of Oblivion, which 2 mana, tap it down, draw a card. If you've created a token this turn, if you're playing Sylvan Library, that on the board, you're automatically going to get the cat. Then you can just tap it down, draw a card every turn. That's pretty powerful.
That is super powerful.
So I think she could be definitely a really fun commander.
And at 2 mana only, too.
Yeah, I mean, 2 mana, as you've seen, Stuffy Doll and Jumpstart. 2 mana.
Tiny Bones.
Oh, sorry, Tiny Bones and Jumpstart. Yes, 2 mana commanders are really, really powerful.
Yeah, when your commander dies and you have to pay the commander tax, feels a lot better when you're starting off with a 2 mana commander.
Yeah, then it's only going to be 4, so it's not going to be too bad.
So what do you think about Veto in a commander build?
Veto could be really, really fun. Black Vampires are always a fun deck. I know that he could slot in maybe into an Edgar Markov deck. I'm sure you've tried thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could just play effects with him as Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond, he already has that one effect on him.
Right.
You could just win the game outright. So if you play a more of a combination style deck, and if you're playing in black, you got access to every tutor under the sun you want. Diabolic, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, all those tutors. You could find the cards you'd need. So it could be a very interesting style deck. And if you just play life gain as it is, you do quite fine. There's plenty of draining and life gain cards in black that you could just win the game anyway.
Right. I mean, you got Exquisite Blood and all that. So with vampires, they're more than likely going to have lifelink. So that's just an extra additional damage that you're going to be doing to the opponent simply by. I mean, it almost in a way gives your creatures with lifelink double strike.
Yeah, I mean,
when he's on the board.
At the end of the day, cards like Kalidas, Trader of Get from Oath of the Gatewatch, they're not bad cards. So even playing them, pretty decent.
What do you think about Radha as far as a commander?
I don't think she's the best commander. I think she fits into the 99 of the deck that she wants to play that is similar. There's a bunch of Gruul land, decks out there.
Right.
There's one additional land playing creature from Oath of the Gatewatch as well. That's an elf that works. There's plenty of those style of cards that she's not the best leader per se, but she fits well into the 99. She's definitely not a bad card. So that's, I think, where she would go.
Speaking of slotting into the 99, would you say Godrek would go into the 99, or is he a commander?
Yeah, Godrek is definitely not a commander in my opinion. His stipulation isn't fantastic. Maybe, and the fact that he's mono red, you can't play so much aristocrat style stuff. So you'd have to play him with some way to sacrifice artifacts, which there's few, but He's not really a commander, but if you play him in a mono red artifact synergy build, like I know I've tried out on Golem, he can definitely be powerful, creating all those treasures and just being a big mana and using it on huge spells. It could be interesting, definitely.
What about Baron?
Baron is, I think, very promising, but he could be quite an aggravating commander to play against with things like Crystal Shard to bounce things to your hand and just stifling opponents out with those style of cards. He could definitely be powerful, but I'm not sure. He's definitely not going to be a commander that you can, all right, I can build a 4-power style deck to bring to a table. I can build a 6. He's probably going to be not great, or he's going to be broken in a style deck that you want to play on your play group's probably not going to want to play against either a 3 deck or a 9 deck. They're going to want to probably be somewhere in that 5 to 7 range of just fun but competitive, in my opinion. But he definitely can be built as a good commander, that's for sure, in my opinion.
What about Manguera?
Manguera, it could be interesting. White doesn't have, a mono white commander deck is not the greatest. There's not so many.
I'd rather play somebody like Linden.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many great powerful cards. I think Manguera definitely probably goes in the 99, but I mean, if you play stuff like Blind Obedience, you play all these other taxing effects, Authority of the Consoles, you could make it work.
You can make it work.
See it, but how much fun are you going to have? I'm not sure.
I think for the most part, he'd be part of the 99 as just a decent way for mono white to get some card draw.
Yeah, I've heard of him probably going into Boros builds definitely as a way to do it, but we'll see. If you really like playing mono white, if you're a Pleasant Kenobi, go for it. Sure, you have fun with it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really interesting and cool legendary creatures in this core set. We're not going to go over all of them, but there's a lot of promise to them, and so far we've already made one commander deck with Subira, and probably going to be some more coming from the channel as well with some of the legendaries in this set. But with that, we're probably going to wrap this up. Want to do a little bit of a closing statement. Like, so far, obviously, Core Set 2021 is still new, but what are your, I guess, final thoughts on the set itself, the cards that are in the set, what you think it's adding to the game, etc.?
I think that the set itself is quite good. I'd say I'm going to give it 3 different ratings, but I would say discussion-wise, Core Set 21, fantastic reprints, so already it's a win. Definitely. Right. The reprints, no matter what the other cards did.
I agree.
The fact that we're reprinting all those cards that are very expensive and putting other people in the game, it's already a win. Impact on Standard, some fun cards, but not enough to shift the meta, so I can't give them a good grade there. However, they print enough cards that it can go into a bunch of different fun shells. Stormwing Entity can go into decent Modern. Pioneer decks can be fun. Enough redundant cards that are, vampires that are fun can go to Commander or anything else. So I think that way they're pretty good. So I would say overall, Impact on Standard, it's a 3 out of 10 for Standard overall. I find it quite boring overall as far as competitive and just diversity. Mm-hmm. However, I thought previous to the set it's a 1 out of 10. Genuinely, it's terrible before the set Standard meta.
Right.
But it's new cards, probably a 6 out of 10. Reprints, 10 out of 10. Set overall, 8 out of 10 in my opinion. Maybe I'll make it a 9 out of 10.
I'll agree with you. I would say that, the reprints alone in the set make it fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many reprints in this thing that made it, that are dropping the price on so many commander cards and making them so much more affordable. So that alone is a win. Like you said, Impact on Standard, not going to change too much. Obviously, flavor of the set, it's a core set, so there's nothing really to say about that. As opposed to comparing it to something like Theros or Ikoria.
And even then, Theros underdelivered, in my opinion, heavily.
Not in theming, but in cards for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say overall it's a fantastic set on its own. And I'm happy that it's out, and I'm enjoying the cards. I'm enjoying brewing with the cards, and we'll just see how the ride goes until Zendikar comes out.
Yeah, my last things I'll say about that. Zendikar is our last chance to prove that this year is not a failure as far as standard sets go. And if they don't do it well, fortunate, but I think what they got to start doing is coming back to the planes that made them great. Come back to the Innistrads and other places like that. Go back to Ravnica, and why not? The last time Guilds of Ravnica came around, fantastic. So hopefully they take from this year, either way, how Zendikar goes, and think about where they're going to do next.
Throne of Eldraine Part 2.
No thanks.
The Return of Oko.
No thank you. I'm okay.
It's coming.
Bring me back to Innistrad. I want some more.
Oko's coming to Innistrad. I'm pretty sure what happened was Emrakul somehow teleported him there. He's just going to ruin the whole plane.
Well, he certainly would be a nightmare there. I'll tell you that much.
All right, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe. We're going to be trying to do these once a week. So if you enjoy listening to us ramble about Magic the Gathering, hit that bell.
Please.
Get the notifications.
Comment down below. Start the conversation.
Get the conversation going. We'll reply. Maybe it'll take us a day, but we'll try. We'll get there.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well, @CoastLizards. We're moving quickly, but we want to keep growing.
That's right. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, go ahead and give the video a like, and we'll see you next time.
Make sure to pay your parking and have a good night.